Hi everybody, welcome back. It's December 31st, 2020, the last day of the year, and man am I looking forward to moving on. I want to give you a quick quote by a gal by the name of Michelle Cottle. She's a syndicated columnist, and she said that this year was a soul-crushing hellscape of a dumpster fire. Boy, I gotta agree, So let's move on. Looking forward to that. This picture I'm showing you right here is one of, I have a couple 2 or 3 gigapans involved in this video. And this picture shows a bunch of buttes lined up in a row. And I want to tell you that I call them buttes only because it's something to call them. They are not buttes like we are used to seeing on Earth. In fact, they're nothing like them at all, except when you see them at a distance. So when you see them at a distance, they look completely normal. But of course they are not, because as soon as you go in close, it's pretty obvious that these are nothing like what we have on Earth. And in fact, they are entirely made up of man-made material. Recently, Jimmy Roberts commented on one of my videos, and he thought that these buttes were actually constructions. In other words, places where people live. And I had lived. And I've been saying all along, if you follow my channel at all, that these buttes are the results of craft that have crashed down from above. And while I still believe that to be true, there seems to be some room for discussion on whether or not these buttes are a construction that have pancaked down, or whether they were craft that fell out of the sky. And one of the problems that I've been having with the idea of these buttes being made up of craft falling out of the sky is, how is it that they all fall down and create these buttes? I can understand them being scattered about everywhere, but to be falling down one on top of the other creating these buttes, I just couldn't understand that. So I'm just going to say that probably, like most things, the truth is in the middle, that these buttes are a combination, possibly, of actual construction, or they're entirely made up of crafts. And some of these buttes, I know for a fact, are entirely made up of crafts. So again, this is going back for the last year in my videos, and as you know, I've stated this over and over and over, and I don't want to be a broken record, but so that's the idea. We're going to take a look. I'm going to continue the idea of trying to discover whether these are crafts or a combination. Now, this one right here to me looks like a craft on its own. It's laying on its side. The left side is the front, and the right side is the back. And you can see that this thing is laying on its side. It's slightly tilted. And there seems to be all sorts of detail on it. Of course, much of this is eroded, but much of it is still there. And down on the ground, all around, everywhere, is this metal debris. And this goes throughout all of the pictures. And some pictures of this are better than others, particularly if the sun is reflecting off of it. It's an incredible amount of debris, but it just shows you that, what was supposed to be dried lake bed is actually nothing more than a bunch of metal debris. Besides, if it were a dry lake bed, wouldn't it be all just nice and flat and everything? This is all disturbed looking. So anyway, it's pretty obvious it's not lake bed. You can see this construction, or this design on the front of this, or on the top of this thing here. It seems like kind of reminds you of a container ship that's lost much of its containers. But there are what looks like rectangular designs on there. And again, it's hard to tell everything, of course, because it is ancient. It's very, very old, and it has seriously eroded. And unlike the buttes on Earth, we have all sorts of things to erode them. Wind, rain, snow, ice, so on and so on. Up here, we have wind and gravity. I think that's pretty much it. And So these things don't erode as quickly as they do on Earth. So the question is how old are these? Another thing I've been saying quite a bit, and I apologize to my frequent viewers, but for the people who aren't watching, in my opinion, as hard to believe as it is, you know, that all of this sand is actually metallic because of the fact that everything in these pictures is man-made. All of these buttes and everything falling down and all around are the material that it's the what makes up this area, and over time it erodes just like usual with the wind, and there's no rocks and no sand here. It's all metal, so this is why we get metallic sand. Now these buttes that are short and sort of round and stick up, they're not the big long extended ones. Now I can see that as having been a construction, because how on earth would a whole bunch of vessels pile down on top of each other in that small of an area? So to me, those kinds of buttes look like, give the best case for a construction. The picture we just saw in this one are two pictures of the same place from a different source, different gigapan, and one is very, very clear and the other is not so much. And we'll see a little bit of that back and forth. Same thing here. We've actually been to this location before, but this second picture that just popped up is so much clearer than it was before, than this other one. So once again, we look at this and try and figure out, is this a craft or is this construction? Now this area right here kind of looks like construction, right? You can clearly see the different levels, various ins and outs here. Although down on the bottom here, it does appear that we have what looks like, an aircraft, a very, very pointy aircraft, possibly a missile. But it does very much look like a construction until you back out, and then you'll quickly see that it's not a construction at all, that it's indeed the side of another vessel on top, also tilted in the same way that the first one we looked at was. And so what's going on here? I think these buttes that we're looking at in this picture are shorter. They're not as high as the other ones, and what's on top is probably what you have throughout. I would, well, it's all guesswork, isn't it? I mean, we can't really go up and dig around, but it appears to me, just based on not only what's on top, but sticking out of the sides of these buttes. It's always the same thing. All sorts of things sticking out. Look at the ground there. That's all gold metal. And sometimes when you see these pancaked areas, there are protuberances, quite a word, that stick out, that kind of give you the feeling that maybe this was a construction. Here again on top we have another, what appears to be a vessel, although, it could be a construction that was on top there. It is broken into pieces, and frankly to me it looks more like a vessel than a construction, but who knows? It's really hard to say. All this pancaking, I gotta wonder how tall everything would be if this wasn't all pancaked down, right? So if everything were back to normal, how much higher up would it go? Sometimes when I look at things like these pictures, it does make me think that, some of it is possibly natural. However, every time I start thinking something like that, there's something in the middle of it, or sticking out, or whatever, that says, no, not natural. But gosh, it sure does look natural much of the time. Here's a couple more vessels sticking out. Of course, they're triangular, right out of the middle of this cliffside. So what does that tell you? It's not natural, and possibly they came down on top of buildings. it's hard to say. But then more on top of those and more on top of those. Then on top of this one right here looks like, kind of looks like a gun. That doesn't mean that it is, but sort of looks like it. And even this picture here tends to look like vessels. Really in a large way, it looks like ocean-going vessels, frankly. And up here on the top of this hill on the right, we have what looks like a superstructure from a vessel. And then a very, very large piece of something in the background. And on top here, there's a sort of a squared off looking structure. It tends to make you think it could have been a construction or it could be a vessel too. It's really hard to say. We'll never get that out of our minds. Going to have to be constantly looking at this issue. And I have to say also, I've been running across quite a few pictures that are really beginning to get under my skin, shall we say. Some things aren't really adding up size-wise. You know what I'm saying? Scale, the amazing obfuscation tool that they have. Here's a triangular vessel that's sticking out of the bottom of the hillside. It looks like it was opened up with a can opener, really, really ragged there. And then also, as it came down, it ran into this white piece of debris. Here on the bottom looks like a big horn, and it gouged a big hole in the side of it as well. So this thing really got beat up when it came down. And just some pictures of some other debris. Hard to say what it could be. Now, this picture here, I was looking at this row of whatever you want to call it, construction, of craft here. I don't know what it is for sure. And that was the idea, though. To me, originally, it looked like it could have been a construction at some point. Possibly could be. I don't know. But look to the left third of this screen, and it looks almost like there's writing or letters on the face of that debris right there. It's hard to say. Now, right in the middle of this picture, dead center, is the front end of a triangular craft sticking out. So once again, in the middle of this butte, there it is. And on top, once again, those could be either constructions or vessels. It's really hard to say. Again, I tend to lean towards vessels, but I could be wrong. Lord knows I've been wrong a lot. And I don't have any problem admitting it when I am. So all of these various levels here. Now this here looks like it's almost entirely made up of crafts. I can see at least 4 or 5 different vessels right off the bat looking at this picture right here. So without even looking closely, they are abundant. And then this is in the background there, kind of an unusual looking bunch of stuff. So that's why I showed it, just kind of interesting. Sort of a big platform that's sitting on. Those are actually destroyed vessels right there, I'm pretty sure. And what is this? Is this a superstructure? Is this construction? What is it? It's just really, really hard to say. This has so much stuff sticking out of it. I tend to believe that is all vessels. This started out looking at this picture right here, dead center. There's some debris there. I thought it was a very interesting shape. And then speaking of shapes, I just happened to look in the background. And I wasn't going for that, but there it is. It just really presented itself. We have a very large triangle on the ground in the background there. And as I said, I wasn't looking for it, but it was just so obvious. I thought I really needed to mention it. Again, you can see all the gold debris on the ground there, all that metal. And there is tons of that metal. It's virtually everywhere. And the thing is, I keep going back to this, is that this is what they tell us is they being NASA, is dried lake bed. And it doesn't look like any kind of dried lake bed I've ever seen. And in fact, they're saying that the new rover is going to a new location. I think it's a new crater that is also supposed to be covered with dry lake bed. I wonder if it's going to look like this dry lake bed. I hope so. I hope we get some more of those gigapans of this new area coming up. Plus, they have the helicopter on that rover, and that should give us some really great shots. So hopefully they will be good pictures and they won't be all obfuscated, and we'll be able to clearly see everything that's there. Thank you for watching, everybody. Looking forward to 2021. Take care. Bye-bye.